Good evening and welcome all to this meeting of the Scrutiny, Climate Change and Environment Committee meeting on Monday the 29th of September 2025. First of all, I'm going to welcome a new person to the committee. Councillor Rob Hawkins is, good evening Rob, I hope you enjoyed, is replacing Kim Smith, who's got mayoral duties, so, but you're here on a permanent basis, aren't you, thus far? Thank you. And on the screen we have Councillor Allen. Can you hear me, Councillor Allen? Can you hear me? Yep, you can hear me, that's good. Yeah, I can see you directly now, so I shan't ignore you. Right, so first of all, number one, apologies for absence. Have we got any apologies? I think everyone's here, aren't they?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Everyone's present.
Everyone's here, brilliant. Declarations of interest. Do any councillors have any declarations of interest to declare on items under discussion at this evening's meeting? No one's putting their hand up. Good, thank you. Urgent business. I'm not aware of any urgent business for consideration at meeting. Yep, lovely. Number 4, questions from the public. No questions from members of the public have been received in advance of the meeting. Number 6, questions submitted by any member of the committee for answers by the leader, cabinet member, officers of the council. A set of questions has been received from myself. I'll put in this question, which I think everyone has now seen, which I've just lost. Here you go. Members will have had a week's notice of this question because I did send you all an email about it last week, and I'm thinking in future I'll try and always send you at least a week so you've got something to, you've got time to think about the question. Obviously you can't think about any answers till tonight. Forgive me, does Councillor Allen get a copy of the answers? Thank you, Councillor. So basically, for the benefit of the people at home watching our every move on YouTube, the question I asked was, in view of the scientific consensus that the target, this concerns to the COP21 Paris 2005 targets, to limit increasing global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade will be exceeded. That's it, okay. What additional steps are being proposed to protect the residents and environment of East Staffordshire from the effects of such warming? And as members present can see, we've had a nice response from the Cabinet Member for Climate Change, who refers to the Climate Change and Nature Strategy and the climate projections for the West Midlands area. And I'm summarising it now, people, again for the benefit of the tape. Mentions flood management, the washlands, enhanced project management for flooding, emergency planning through the Staffordshire Resilience Forum. The planning policy SP27 covers climate change and water management and flooding, well, indeed it does, I know that very well. And goes on to talk about natural solutions, tree planting, building resilience, you know, as in buildings being more resilient to the effects of climate change, home energy efficiency, insulation, better temperature management, strategies for integration. Staffordshire County Council have an adaptation strategy, and you know, and we are part of the Staffordshire Sustainability Board. Adaptation planning talks about a comprehensive climate risk strategy for the borough, establishing specific adaptation pathways for council services, boosting our resilience to extreme weather events such as flooding and heat waves. And the council's approach will continue to be evidence-based, developing these assessments to inform targeted measures that protect residents and the environment from future climate impacts. So that is quite a full response from Councillor Fletcher, which is nice to have in my hand. Does anybody have any comments about this? About that? Thank you, Councillor Lockerbie. Thank you very much.
Can I start off with a question? Are you sure you meant to write COP21 Paris 2015? Well, the latest IPCC report is that the 1.5 target is irrevocably lost. I can't get on my computer still. I haven't got all the details, but we're not anywhere near where we should be on it. Well, I will do. I'll send a copy of the IPCC report to Sharon and Mark, to see if they acknowledge its veracity and to comment on where we actually stand with our 2025 action plan. Because in...
Sorry, mate, thank you. By all means, copy me into that, please. Yes, forgive me, the question, if you read, look, is in view of the scientific consensus that the target will be exceeded. Okay, so I was aware that the 1.5 degree has been lost. I'm just referencing where the agreement was. The original agreement for this was in COP21 in Paris. So the consensus is the temperatures. We failed, haven't we? 1.5 is built in now, and as I understand it, the tipping points for all manner of things are more difficult to avoid, or will happen anyway. But my question is because global warming has increased beyond what was agreed at Paris in 2015. I'm asking if the council have got plans to cope with that and to cope with the consequences of that. And I've got an answer here that suggests that they have. But personally, I would still like to see a detailed, more detail. And in particular, I think we should really ask if we can see the actual major incident plan when it's available to produce. I gather it's being revamped as we speak.
It went to Cabinet at the last Cabinet meeting, I believe. As far as their comments are concerned, I think it was just noted. But it does show that, or the IPCC report shows that global warming, if we isolate that as the issue, that is head and shoulders above any other issue, like protection of animals, protection of this, that, or the other. Unless we get that done, no matter what we do elsewhere, will not count for anything. So when we think about Blair's intervention, where he says people are spending a lot of money on all these prevention issues and seeing nothing in return, and I don't know whether he was a anti-interventionist or he was just pointing out the bankruptcy of what we actually doing, I don't know. But Farage is obviously against any implementations. So the question is, are we using valid, up-to-date information? I think there are estimates out there which are estimates and unproven. I think we need to stick with what the majority have got behind, which is the IPCC, and through that the COP annual get-togethers. But it's the promises, as usual, the promises are failing to be materialised as action. And so it seems to me that whatever we do, whatever we say, has got to be implemented. Because otherwise we're just tick boxing and there's pointless being here.
Thank you, Mick. I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said there, but I mean, you're right. We concrete suggestions of what this council is going to do. That's what I really want to see, and more detail of it. Forgive me. Earlier, I know you responded to my email I sent out with the question last week, and you suggested I look at the West Midlands Combined Authority position on climate change. They did a little video, and they had a link in there to the government site. And if you go onto that, ladies and gentlemen, and members, people at home, you can put in your postcode and you can find out the projected flood risk. And I understand for this building, where it's medium risk now of flooding, and it's high risk of flooding from 2024 to 2060. So that's what I've discovered again for myself. So again, I think this is information that the council needs to be aware of, and it would be good to see on their major incident plan when we eventually get a chance to look at it. What plans they've got for dealing with such things, or I appreciate it's very hard to plan for all eventualities, isn't it? I do understand that, but there needs to be a process of what we do or what the council does and how we ensure that the residents and the environment of East Staffordshire are safe. That's what I'm on with. Forgive me, has anybody else got anything they would like to say about that before we move on? Oh yeah, one last time.
We talk about mitigation, which is to prepare ourselves for the eventualities that will happen, not which is a theoretical situation described by people 20 years earlier. We know that as far as the two main experiences are going to be, we've seen evidence of this almost every day throughout the summer across the world on our news. It's going to be floods and fire. Floods are going to happen where they've already happened. We know the location. Just to continue saying this is going to flood is not mitigation. Mitigation is to develop a system of works which lead that water either not to congregate in that position or is led away, where that flood becomes an interrupter into our common way of life. You know, if you can't get to work, it interrupts the common way of life. If you can't get to school, you start to suffer educational problems. If you can't get to your doctors. So wherever these floods are happening, they're happening now. We know those locations. What we should be doing is setting money aside to do works that somehow get that water away from that location into somewhere less damaging. I'm not aware that we're doing anything of the sort. I know talking to officers on the county council, there is a bit of frustration there that sort of thing is not being picked up as readily as it should be. And of course, in the summer with the increase in temperatures, and we'd like to brag that we're in the centre of the national forest, but that is going to burn. We've already seen local fires starting and whatever as the temperature ramps up. The point about global warming is that drives both of these items. We now know practically that many of the oceans of the world are releasing carbon, not taking it in. We also know that there are quite a few of the forests have stopped taking carbon in and are releasing it out. There are other significant pieces of catastrophic news, I suppose, if it all shows. But we have to be doing something. It's not good enough just to read the reports and pass comments. We need to know, what are we physically doing about things? You know, the roads, the county council's had a lot of crap about potholes. It can't keep its bridges. You know, it's no good just writing about things and just putting it in reports. We have to see what physically we've actually done. Otherwise, it's pointless as being involved. It's just a distraction on things that we could be doing.
Thank you, Mick. Again, I don't disagree with anything you say. I think we need to focus it though on the oceans. I mean, great. Yes, you're dead right, but we need to focus it on what we can do here, don't you? In this council, in East Staffordshire, I'm thinking we're all members of various committees. Certainly, the Development Plan Committee, the Audit Committee, which myself and other people are both on. There's stuff there which has a direct impact, doesn't it, on climate change? You know, the climate change risk from audit and how we develop a better plan for East Staffordshire which accounts for potential risks or potential climate change adaptation measures is all very useful. So I think we need to keep this in mind when we go back to these other committees in the council. And forgive me. So Mick, if you're going to send the latest IPC report to Sharon and John and Mark, yeah, and Councillor Fletcher, and copy me in, please. And if I write back to Councillor Fletcher and thank him for this answer, and suggest I would like to see the major incident plan, or the committee would like to see the major incident plan. Is that okay? Is that a,
Whatever I send to
Yeah.
officers and what have you,
Yeah.
send to everybody on the
Yeah,
committee.
great, good. And hopefully people at home who've listened to this conversation might think, well, yeah, at least people in this room are interested in doing something, and maybe they can suggest it. But if anyone's got any local knowledge, because this is the great thing, it is for me the whole point of being a ward councillor is you end up with local knowledge, don't you? You know what's happening in your area. You can see what's happening, and if you've got a suggestion for how things can be better, what you can do, then I think we need to use this kind of knowledge as well, don't we? And perhaps feed it in to the council and to whatever plans they make for major incident plans and how to cope with the damage of climate change. Right. So unless anyone's got anything to say, I think we'll move on. Is that okay? Thank you. Thanks very much. Well, that's interesting. Thank you, people. I've enjoyed that conversation. Thanks very much. Now then, so we're now on to item 6, public minutes of the previous meeting held on 30th of June 2025. I propose approval of the public minutes from the meeting. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holden, thank you. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Yeah. Thank you. Have you got that? Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. Item 7, Scrutiny Review Programme Update. The agenda does say that James will do this, but if you don't mind, I'm going to do this. Right. So at the moment, then, you'll remember from the 30th of June meeting, I was hoping to present, or hoping that we present 2 scrutiny reviews. The first one was on the impact of the brown bin subscription charge on climate change, and the second one was on the Warmer Homes project and how we could perhaps improve that. And at the last minute, I decided I would withdraw both of those presentations at the time. For those who weren't in the room at the time, this was because having read the officer comments on both of these reports, I decided that it was unlikely that these would be properly approved and that we need to do some more work on them. I did promise that I would basically rewrite the reports and share them with the various subgroups to develop them further. I'm apologising now that I haven't done that yet. I'm still working my way through it. This has been a harder and longer job than I thought. In particular, the Warmer Homes project, as those people who were involved in that project will know, we were hoping to get it out before the council or the cabinet received the housing stock model report, which they've now done. So I think now we know there is no information available to us. We ought to sort of look at that really. So I'm looking now at Mark and Monica, who I know was involved in that. That's why I haven't got that one done, because I'm still trying to work out how to use that information. But I will share it with you as soon as I do. I would like to think I can do that before our next meeting, which is due to be on the 12th of January. I'm not going to promise, but I'll do my very best to get that through. So that's where we are with the current programmes we've got ongoing still. Does anyone have any questions about those 2 issues, those 2 programmes at this stage? No. Okay. Thank you. Right? As I said at the last meeting, I'm not anxious to involve in any more projects until I've got these over the line. But I mean, has anyone got any ideas or suggestions for future projects at some point? We're welcome to. I'm welcome to sort of suggestions. So yeah. So, Councillor Huckabee.
In another place with a different team, I did send a motion in effectively asking the majority controlling group to consider the divestment of £3 million which is lodged with the Royal Bank of Canada. The Royal Bank of Canada is the most prolific investor in fossil fuels that searches can reveal. We have put £3 million with them. That goes out to earn interest, to pay our interest on our loan that's with them. So in effect, that £3 million goes to aid the pollution coming from the element of those fossil fuels, that we have an emergency state about in this council, not done by Labour, but done prior to Labour taking over, but we've carried on with that state of emergency. It seems to me illogical that on the one hand we're saying it's an emergency, and on the other hand we're investing money in the exact opposite of what we consider to be an emergency. So the two are not conducive to each other. My thought is that we ought to remove that £3 million from that place and place it in a more safer position. I have heard back that those two investments come to an end this year, therefore my motion is not really, hasn't got any legs as such, and it's pointless debating it. I've been thinking about this, and really my attitude to putting the motion forward was that we pick on a specific that we can gather information and exact information about, accurate, to see the incongruity of having investments there if we still hold to the position of climate change being an emergency. So if I was to accept that this falls by the wayside in 2025, it still does not, in conversations with the chief accountant of the ESBC, it does not oblige him to seek green pastures for any, or put it another way, he can go back to the Royal Bank of Canada and reinvest any money that he has. So it needs to go forward to the full council, hopefully, to be adopted or otherwise, depends how members feel. First of all, it goes to the controlling group as a motion, and it might die or walk there. So I did say, in response to this leader's opinion, that I would consult with the leader of the climate change committee and get it as a subject to analyse, because simply we look stupid, and I don't like looking stupid. I might look old, I might look ragged, I need my hair cut and what have you, but I hope I don't look stupid or sound stupid. So I think it's something that we should seriously consider. In retrospect, we're looking at COP annual get-togethers, a lot of promises made, and then we're sitting back and hearing that nothing seems to be happening. Blair pops up and says, we spend a lot of time, a lot of money on these things, but nobody's seen any return. Well, on the one hand, we're talking, but on the other hand, we're acting against what we're saying we're promising. So if what happens in this council is replicated throughout the country, and perhaps throughout the world, wherever there are councils and what have you, then no wonder these promises aren't working, because they might well have been implemented, but the actions of these banks and other are countermanding that.
Good. Thank you, Mick. So in summary then, so the Royal Bank of Canada investments are going to come to an end shortly anyway. So that's from a ethically climate-based point of view good, isn't it? But you did right. Do we need to have a better plan for how we spend and invest our money to avoid being in a contradictory state, i.e. declaring a climate emergency, but funding it through giving our hard-earned council tax pounds to less scrupulous investment bodies such as RBC. So, does anyone have any comments about that? I mean, I think it might be interesting, Mick, at this point, if we ask this committee, the members here present now, if anyone's got anything they think about that. I think that would be interesting. Has anyone got any comments they would like to make about that? Thank you, Councillor Adams. Sorry, Councillor Adams. Thank you.
Yeah, just with the benefit of understanding a little bit more how a cabinet executive operates, I just thought it worth sharing something that I remember doing when we were in control of the council, and that was slightly different, but it's still, I think, pertinent to the conversation. Green energy was something that we hadn't done previously, and when Russia invaded Ukraine, there was a discussion in the controlling group about divesting money away from Russian assets for that reason, but also at the same time there was a desire to only buy energy, green energy that was wholly green sourced. And I think that continued. I think there was a report come through not that many weeks ago where the council has continued to buy green energy. So it was just really in reference to what Councillor Huckabee's talking about. I don't think it needs to be a scrutiny review here. He's referenced having discussions in the controlling group meetings. Then I would expect or hope that his cabinet executive are listening in those group meetings. If they're not, then that's perhaps an internal problem that the Labour group need to deal with themselves. But it doesn't need to be convoluted. It doesn't need to be difficult. The fact that those investments are coming into an end, of course, these things are invested in over long periods of time, particularly with the corporate bonds. They take a long time to mature anyway. So it's perhaps might be perceived to be good that those things are coming to an end, but there would be a discussion about where that money that's maturing will then be invested again. Otherwise, we're just sitting in the bank account earning very little interest. So that really is the conversation for the cabinet member responsible for finance and perhaps the leader as well. But I just thought I'd mention that because it wasn't a difficult discussion that we had around investing the council and taxpayers' money in green energy, and it wasn't actually that much money either. Hardly any more money. I think it was cheaper. In fact, I think if James is present, I think he'll remember doing that. I think it was cheaper than investing and buying energy that wasn't green, so to speak. But I just think, from my experience, it shouldn't be a convoluted, long process, unless Councillor Huckabee feels that the executive aren't listening to him. But that's an entirely separate issue.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. That was interesting. Yes, I mean, I think we can all applaud the efforts that the previous administration made on buying green energy. That's very good. I think, Mick, forgive me. I think Councillor Huckabee's point was that in future the Chief Officer for Finance in the council can decide to invest these monies again in a similar less scrupulous body. And I know that again, myself and Councillor Huckabee sit on the audit committee, don't we? And before now, I've asked Lloyd Haynes, particularly questions about investment strategy, and apparently the council is supposedly bound by the creditworthiness rules that HM Treasury devise. So I think I share Councillor Huckabee's suspicion that the council could decide to invest in less green and less scrupulous bodies that it needs to. So that's where I am on that point. Have you got anything you want to add to that, Mick? Perhaps you do.
The actual mandate from the central government is SLY, which is safety. L, I forgot what L is, and Y is yield. So they have to every investment has to comply with those three different security measures. This is what this council is saying. In actual fact, there are councils up and down England who are challenging that, especially on pension funds, which I've not mentioned, to divest themselves on the basis that these are fast-changing economic platforms that tomorrow could be stranded because nobody is going to touch them. As more and more evidence of incidents reveal itself, the public and the investor market change their opinions rapidly. The actual wording in the government legislation allows for the consideration of environmental issues, even though some of the dyed-in-the-wool accountants don't accept that.
Thank you. Vicky.
So I guess the basis of this is we don't necessarily agree with where some of the funding may go. Yep. Why don't we get the cabinet member in and the committee can then put their point forwards? It doesn't have to be a report at this stage. It's just really to discuss what is happening, and if that needs to be in a private sector section of this, because we're dealing with funds and that, we can do it that way.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. I think that's a very good suggestion. Does anyone, people, Councillor George? Councillor Allen, please. Thank you. Did you say something? Did you mention?
Completely missed what Councillor George said there at all, so there might be some issue with the system. Just going back to what Councillor Huckabee was talking about, yes, true. A lot of the investments are, we talk about what rating and what grading they are, and all of that is set out in a policy called the Treasury Management Strategy, which is set every year, right after the MTFS strategy and before the council tax setting. And it's a discussion that's had every year. It's very dry. It takes quite a bit of reading. But if this is something that Councillor Huckabee's got a particular concern or interest in, then I'd suggest that right now and in the lead up into to the February council meeting, when we set that finance and treasury management strategy, then you could also have a policy in there that says we're only going to be investing in stuff that's of a certain rating, green rating. I'm sure there's measures out there that can be fitted in. As I say, this shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. I suspect perhaps it's advantageous on the 151's part, Section 151 officer's part, that he's allowed and able to invest taxpayers' money in the most efficient and highest interest yielding investments possible, and that might not always be green ones. So that's a discussion and a decision to be had.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Allen. But I think the suggestion that Councillor Gordon made about getting a member, in to speak to us about this would be useful. Would be, if nothing else, a way of influencing the decision, wouldn't it? And certainly would be a way of progressing the climate change agenda in the way that I think the council wants it to be. We've declared a climate emergency, and what are we doing about it? So I think that would be a good thing to do. Yeah, Councillor Huckabee.
If I may comment. The way I see the world is that everything is interconnected. Now, we've mentioned already the building report that was done by Borough, checking all the conditions of all the houses. One of the major complaints or points about that is that the report done from that by council officers contains an estimate of the cost of putting right the category 1 issues that all houses, not just rented or privately rented or landlord rented, and that comes to something like 30 odd million, 30, 40 million. Now there are other things as well in there which are not costed out. If we have spare money that's invested in the opposite direction to what we would like to do in an officer's report but haven't got the money to do, then it's not difficult to see that taking it from Paul and giving it to Peter would solve one of these things. The fact that there's 7,000 odd category 1 issues with properties in Burton or East Staffordshire gives us a sense of a duty of care that we're not really planning to expedite. Now, if we were to talk in terms of having to raise that capital, we know with the financial economic situations it's never going to happen. So these people, we're condoning the way they live in the state they live in, with all the attendant comorbid illnesses and what have you, damage and what have you to babies, to children, with all the repercussions of missing school, etc., etc. It's not beyond our capability to realise where our resources are best placed to give a positive community in Burton rather than one which is actually decaying. Things are getting worse, they're not getting better. We don't have the resources that we used to have, even if we use them then. Since I was first on the council, we're 30 years down the road now, and the conditions that I used to look at and shiver about, I live in them now. So there's a lot of ways of cutting this cake up, and certain ways are better than others. So
Thank you, Councillor Kabir. I think, yes, your logic is impeccable. You know, why aren't we using this money instead of investing it in less scrupulous bodies, investing it in measures that help local community and help adapt to climate change? That's good. So I think then, ladies and gentlemen, members, we've decided that we'd like to invite the Cabinet Member for Treasury Management to talk to us about that, won't we? Is that what we've gone for? Is that okay? Yeah, that seems like any objections to that as a strategy? I can write to Ali Chowdhury, can't I? Ask him if he wants to come and talk to us about the council strategy for investing in its money.
I've already had conversations with Lloyd. I can release those emails. I don't think he would mind on that because there's nothing confidential in them to members of the group, so they've got a bit of a background as to those.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkby. Yes, please do that. That's okay. Write that down, Nick. To release Lloyd's emails. Right. Again, I think that was an interesting discussion, people. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. So forgive me. We're now moving on to item 8 then, if that's okay, everybody. Date of next meeting. It says Monday the 12th of January 2026, and the following meeting is also on there. That's Monday the 13th of April 2026. So councillors are asked to note these dates in their diaries. So if you'd like to do that, please, ladies and gentlemen. We're now to item 9, Quarter 1 Performance Report. I now invite James Abbott, the Corporate Services Manager, to present the report. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Chair. So this is the Quarter 1 Performance Report, looking at the Council's progress towards achieving its corporate priorities for the 25-26 financial year, along with the latest updates on the leisure contract, the Towns Fund programme and the grounds maintenance insourcing work. Wanted to just focus initially on the corporate plan, but each target's been graded in the usual way, depending on its progress up to the end of June of this financial year. So this shows the Council being at 90.59% green, 7.06% amber, and then just 2.35% red. Just to provide a bit of further breakdown on those high-level figures, the tables that you can see on pages 8 and 9 of the report, they show a bit of further analysis, including how those percentages break down across the corporate priorities, as well as across the individual cabinet portfolios. The small number of red and amber targets that I've mentioned are all detailed in the tables you can see on pages 10 through to 13 of the main report. They just provide some narrative to provide the context around each of those indicators and the situation with each of those. That section of the report also details the agreed updates to a couple of targets, which are set out on pages 13 and 14. It's always worth saying that Appendix 1 includes the comprehensive data on all the targets, whether they're red, amber or green, across the whole corporate plan. The report also goes on to provide information on the performance of the leisure operating contract, which you can see there in section 6 of the report. That's flagging no issues at the moment. We also have the performance of the Towns Fund programme set out in section 7 of the report, which again is similarly positive in the main, does flag the key risks. And then section 8 sets out a summary of the project to insource the currently externally managed grounds maintenance service, which according to the report is on track for its October 26 target. And of course, there's further detail on all three strands, leisure, Towns Fund and grounds maintenance, in the 3 appendices that we'll see later on in this evening's agenda as well. But that's just a very high level summary of the report as a whole, but we'll be happy to take any questions away.
Yeah, thank you, James. That was interesting. I think, again, we'll have seen this report when we at the group meetings as well, so we should all be familiar with this stuff. Does anyone have any questions at this stage? Councillor Huckabee.
Yeah, I can't see it on my computer, but I think the council deserves a real good slap on the back regarding the use of HVO fuel in its waste vehicles. It's reduced the amount of pollution remarkably. I think we're 93% down on what we used to be. Now this brings in the push for electric vehicles. Now, I think we'll see that the policy of the council is to push taxi drivers in the direction of electric vehicles. Now, if we were to take the 300 vehicles which are in this vicinity, and if we were to change that policy from pushing them towards electric and push them towards Euro 6 diesel using HVO, we would find that those diesel vehicles are twice as clean as the electric vehicles that we're pushing them into buying. As well as that, the capital cost is stretching a lot of these individuals to move into electrics, whereas to move into Euro 6 vehicles is a lot less. So on 2 counts, I think the council's pressure is captivated by people like Elon Musk and pushing his propaganda, whereas we ought to be looking at the pragmatic creation of good fixes to situations we find ourselves in. Because if we go back to global warming, then it's all associated with the amount of carbon we're pushing into the atmosphere, and we need to cut that as quick as we can by as much as we can. And that does not necessarily mean moving to electric vehicles. We're still in the process of trying to provide sufficient charging points. When you come to 300 vehicles in Burton, most of those vehicles, the drivers reside in our deprived areas where there are no gardens, no drives and what have you, so they'll all be looking round for charging points all at the same time to get their cars ready for tomorrow morning. So it's a bit of a blind spot, I think, that we've got ourselves into here. But the figures on HVO pollution and the figures on electric vehicle pollution are quite staggering. So we ought to take note. Now this is friendly advice, friendly criticism that we're looking in the wrong direction. For the short term, I appreciate in the long term, we might well have to go all the way to electric vehicles, but we might go into hydrogen as well. But for the short term, which is the next few years, we ought to be thinking in terms of a more pragmatic policy.
Okay, thank you, Mick. Yeah, that seems logical. So forgive me. So you're happy with the report we've just received and the HVO use, but you think we should maybe adjust the council's thinking on electric vehicles? Yeah. Okay, that's crikey. What do I do with that? Yes, yeah. Okay, so this comes under, is this forgive me, which member is responsible for that sort of decision then? I've lost it a bit now. Cabinet member. Councillor Fletcher, it's still Councillor Fletcher, is it? Yeah.
Councillor Fletcher in terms of climate change,
yeah.
And I think it's Councillor Slater in terms of the communities and regulatory services.
That's the line. Forgive me, thank you, James. That's sorry, people out there in real world. We have a licensing cabinet member responsible for licensing of taxis, where we go. So presumably, as chair, I could write to the cabinet member for licensing, couldn't I, in effect, and suggest that we can sit. Both of them. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. We'll do. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy. Thank you very much. I will do that and suggest and say that's an issue that came up at this meeting. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Any comments about the report in particular? No? Okie doke. Thank you. Thank you, James. Right. The next section of this agenda is we have 3 items to consider in private. So I will now move that in accordance with section 100 brackets A brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting, as it is likely in the view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings that there will be disclosed exempt information as defined in paragraphs part I of Schedule 12A of the Act, indicated in brackets before each item number on the agenda. Heavens above. Do I have a seconder for this, please? Put a hand up, somebody, please. Thank you, Councillor Gore. Thank you very much. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I will now wait for members. There's no members, no public here, so please switch off the recording, please, Emily. Thank you very much. Thank you.